Would you like to be my tag team partner?
Yeah, I mean, we're going for gold, right? We're just not going to try to be one of these, like, middle card fools that are just happy to be there.
We're going to the top, the tippy top.
All right.
So you're my tag team partner, that's established?
Yes.
Good, I'm tagging you in right now so you can finish reading Alan Moore's Jerusalem on my behalf. I got like 160-something pages left, and you can finish it.
Do you think it maybe would be easier for me because I don't have all that baggage from the previous, like, 1,000 pages, like, holding me down? I'm just going in blind and just be like, well, I'm just going to get through these pages.
Believe it or not, I think it would be worse. Okay. I know people are sick of hearing me talk about this, but somehow it gets worse. Like, not the book or the quality. It's good quality. It's a good book. It's just this third book, because it's a book of 3, is how he has it split up. So this third book is, as the listeners know from my previous complaints, it's all over the place with, experimentation. So the last chapter, it was 2 different time periods, one of this guy's life and one when he's already dead and he's marching to infinity to the end of time. And it's just as long as that sounds.
Yeah.
And
the book's in real time.
Yeah. So every chunk of the story of this particular story, so say it's him marching with his granddaughter and they're going to the end of time. It's usually about a page long, and then it just breaks mid-sentence and goes mid-sentence into the other story that's going on. And it's not just one part of his life. It's just any part of his life, when he's a kid, when he's an adult, when he's old and dying. So it's hard to follow, and you're like, what the fuck is happening? So it took half the chapter before I realized what was going on. And then it turned out actually to be really good and really interesting. And the way it's wrapped up is really cool, but it's just hard to follow. This new chapter, Spencer. I don't know if I almost threw the book last night. Yeah. I'm not even kidding.
I was so mad.
I was going to be like, I'm going to power through it, and I'm just going to do it. No. The last 3 days, I just been maybe 4 pages, and I'm just so pissed off because I should have been done with it already. Yeah. But this chapter, it started off, I don't know who's talking. I don't know who this person is. I don't think it's a character that's been established in this book yet, but it's just like first person narrative. I think it's supposed to be stream of consciousness. It's literally just some guy talking without any punctuation, one continuous sentence that just goes on for 50 pages or whatever the chapter is.
Just one single sentence.
Well, I mean, there's no periods or anything, but it's like, okay, here's an example. So, Spencer, I was at work today, and work was hard. And you know what? I do like cream cheese on bagels, but I'm not a big fan of cake, believe it or not. And then anyway, work was really hard. So what I did was I quit. I quit my job. But then that reminded me in 1974 when Nixon, that's how it is. That's how it reads. There's also breaks in it, too, where it's like repeated words and stuff because it's supposed to be like your consciousness. So it's just really hard to follow sometimes, too.
See, like, you talk about, like, how good this book is and stuff like that, but anytime you describe it to me, it sounds terrible. And
on every metric?
Yeah, and just, like, unenjoyable. Like, I can get to a certain point to be like, oh, well, it's written very well and it's interesting in parts, but half the time I can't even understand what the fuck's going on. Like, at what point does that take away from the goodness or the quality of the book?
I will equate this book with weightlifting. Lifting super heavy weights is not really actually fun, believe it or not. Doing anything in the gym that's very strenuous and hard, running miles and miles, that stuff is not fun, but after it's done, you feel great and you really appreciate that you did it. That's how the book is. It's almost like the writing process sometimes when you're writing something, you're like, fuck, I hate this. I wish I was done. But when you're done, you look back and you're like, that was great.
But something tells me that by the time when you finish this book, when you flip over the 1200th page or whatever, and you fucking read the end, something tells me the book's just gonna fall out of your hands, hit the floor, and you're just gonna be like, I'm done. I'm finally done.
I will be like the man who walked for infinity in the book. You don't understand how long this walk is in this chapter. Like, the guy is walking till the end of time, but he doesn't actually leave the place he's at because everything's in Northampton. But it is cool because it explains, at least in that chapter, like, the farther they go, all of a sudden, like, the earth changes and stuff, and then eventually people go extinct, and then, like, it's really cool how it's written. But it's just like, God damn, this is long.
But it's just like nothing, that's almost hardly anything at any point in time in the past couple years of you talking about reading this book, have I ever been like, that makes me want to check it out?
You know what's funny? I got on Facebook one of those memory things 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It was me posting the book, and it was like, I don't think I had a caption, but I remember how excited I was. Like, I'm going to love this book when I start reading it.
Yeah, because I was telling somebody at work about your troubles, and I was like, he started it like a couple years ago, and then it just stopped dead for a long time, and then like later, like last year, he got into it a little bit, and then he put it to aside for a bit. But then I was like, it was like sometime like late October, early November, he was like, he's gonna sit down and he's gonna finish this thing. And now we're like halfway through March, and he's still got a couple hundred pages left.
160 something pages, Spencer. If I get through this chapter, I might be able to make it, but I don't.
That's what you say about the end of. Once I get past this section, I should have no more problems until you get to the next section.
See, the problem is I'm climbing this mountain, and then I look up and I see a big cloud, and I'm like, that's the top of the mountain in that cloud. But then when I go up through the cloud, there's more mountain.
More mountain.
It just gets more difficult. He purposely did this last set of chapters to just progressively get harder and harder as you go up. And it's like, why? Why can't I just finish it? Why can't it be just fun?
How mad would you be if, like, through some kind of Alan Moore magic, you finally get to the end, and then, look, you never noticed it before when you flipped through it and was looking, but then you get to the end and you just see to be continued or end of book 1.
No, knowing him, it'll end and it'll be like, now I'll read the book backwards to find the true meaning.
Yeah.
Like, it's written backwards too? And then you read it backwards, like, oh, God damn. Spencer, forget the rest of the reading for the year. I got to read Jerusalem some more. So anyway, that's where I'm at. So maybe next week when we record, I will be done.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to be done today, but this chapter has beaten me almost to a bloody pulp.
We'll see.
I don't like it. I don't like it anymore. I don't want to do it anymore.
But then, like, after this, how long are you going to have to, like, because something tells me you're going to need a break after this. Even if you go into, like, an easy thing, like, afterwards, like, we're talking about the Murakami, like, something tells me that even that you're still going to want, like, a break after, after you're done with this.
For those who can't see, I got this really terrible beer. I just drank it. It made me almost throw up. It's a cherry barrel-aged 9% alcohol ale of some kind.
Black cherry, I think you said.
Black cherry, but it just tastes like medicine. And if somebody like got a straw, put one end of the straw up their bum hole, put the other end of the straw at the bottom of my glass, and just proceeded to blast some noxious gas into it. And that's how they got the nitrous for the beer. It was through their bum. It's not good.
As to pair with what you're reading, not the greatest right now. Just,
you know what might actually explain the badness of this beer? It might not be such a bad. It's still pretty bad, but it tastes like old wine. We got it in Columbus. Okay. I got a 6-pack on Saturday, and I only drank 3 of them. And then Sunday morning, we had to check out of the Airbnb. So we put it. I had some leftover food and my beer, and Mindy got some ice in a bag and put it on top. And we didn't get home until like 10 hours later because we had to pick the dog up and stuff. So we ended up just not getting home until like 5 something, or no, it was like 6 almost.
Yeah.
So we left at 9 or 10 in the morning. So yeah, like 9 in the morning till 6 in the evening, those beers sat there, got very warm, and then I put it in the cooler.
Now, was it like a mixed 6-pack or something?
Yeah.
Oh, so I was gonna say, so you haven't tried that before? Okay.
No, I have not tried that awful beer before. But that could explain that maybe it got a little skunky because it got warm. So it was cold, warm,
and then cold again. Yeah.
Let me do another test.
Yeah. Why not?
It smells like
maybe
fucking asshole.
Maybe it's the mouth. Maybe you need to get a big mouthful.
Okay, a big mouthful.
Yeah, like half the glass.
My body's like rejecting it. Just the idea of it. My esophagus closed up when I thought of doing that. And you know what? It looks like a really shitty white Zinfandel.
I want some of it to get into your stash too, so it just stays in this.
I gotta smell it. Ew.
The face you make and the way you drink that, like, it just reminded me of like how I have to drink like the prep that I need to take before like I have like a colonoscopy, like that, just, like that metallic. That's just you had the same reaction to that.
That's the beer that bites back. That's not good.
It's the beer that drinks you.
Yeah, I have 2 more. I could dump this out and get one of those, but I don't know. I think I have to. I haven't had a drain pour in a long time, but that is a bad beer.
You're definitely gonna need another glass because I think that's probably sullied that glass for a while.
It's probably like acid eating through it. It's it's like when you drink a hard liquor and if you feel it in your lungs sometimes, like that burning. It's like that, but not burning. More like bitter ass flavor. It's permeating through my head. It's like a skunk crawled up inside my sinus and just shit.
Just farting inside of you.
Anyway, folks. Stick around. We have probably things to talk about. It's not supposed to be a DBS episode, but maybe it will be. Because I'm probably going to get really inebriated drinking another skunk beer. Yeah, I'll check you out in a second. You are here with the DPW experience. Oh, wait, that ain't right. Wait, that's our after hour show. No, the after hour show is the sexual. What the fuck is this one? The Drunken Pen Writing Podcast.
Yeah.
It's like the writing one, right?
Yeah.
We have a lot of things in the mix that people don't know about.
Yeah.
What if we had super successful podcasts that people, like, we just didn't tell people we had? Like, on this show. This is just the D-list show.
Oh, well, I mean.
Ooh. I am your host, Caleb James. With me today, Spencer, the Tanzanian toe tickler church. Ooh, that's not too nasty.
No, well, I mean.
Just for those listening to that intro, I know it went on extra long, but if you did listen to the beer part of it, because I actually have to call this out because this was one of the worst beers I've ever had. I normally don't do this. I don't beer shame. Wild Ohio Brewing. This is called the Wild Tea Black Cherry Bourbon Barrel. Fuck, it's a long name. Maybe that's what it is. Really brewed with tea. That's what the weird fucking vegetable flavor we had was.
Yeah.
There's like a vegetable flavor or something in there, I think, that made it taste like ass. I think it was the tea. So maybe when it got warm, it did get a little skunky.
Ooh, maybe.
It might have been my fault. It might have been, I don't know. It was fucking sucked. I let Spencer taste it. He made the same face.
Yeah, it was gross.
And then I believe it or not, first time in, I think, at least in this studio's history.
Oh, yeah, definitely in this studio, yeah.
Drain pour. I had to dump that beer. I could not drink it. I could stomach many things, but I could not drink it. So now I'm drinking an Irish stout, and it is stouty.
It looks flavorful.
Yeah. It's like if Miller Lite and Guinness had a baby. It's like it's dark as shit, but it tastes really light.
It's like you're drinking a Coke.
Yeah, but it's effervescent. It's light and airy, which is not what I normally associate with stouts.
No,
like you saw those Murphy stouts I had in those. I mean, those are nitrous, but those are like Guinness, like thick, creamy,
you
dark.
You put like a straw in it, and it just stands in the middle.
Right, tastes like pretzels. This does not taste like pretzels. It's a good beer, but not one I would purchase again. So anyway, we are here. We are queer. Get used to it. Wait, that's not where allowed. Are we allowed to say that? What do you?
That would be appropriation, I would think, right nowadays.
I don't know. I feel like everybody wants to be on the queer spectrum. Because when we were growing up, queer was the slur.
Yeah.
But now it's like the preferred name, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll just cut it out. I'll just cut it out. I don't want to get in trouble. Or
Get it.
Or I'll leave it in for Mike. I think Mike said to do it. So we are here to talk about stuff. Now, you asked me off air. I was minding my own business. You said, Caleb, how does a guy like me submit?
I can't figure it out.
Well, I said, first get on your knees, bitch. Oh, wait, what kind of submission are we talking about here? Oh, writing submissions. Yeah. Well, Spencer, let's get into the nitty gritty, because I don't think we've done this. We've talked about it. We've skirted it. We've skirted around it, rather. But I don't think we actually deep dived into how.
No, I think we just talked about submitting, but never the process of.
Because we do have a lot of writers who listen to our show, and a lot of them.
God help them.
Oh, I feel bad for you. Don't take our advice. You can take some of it. Just be very selective. But now that I am a published author, I feel like I can at least give some some advice for submitting. I won't say listen to me foolhardy here, but if you want to submit work, I'm talking to mainly magazines and journals. If you want to like query agents and stuff like that for your books or do submissions with manuscripts, that's a little bit of a different process, way lengthier. The submission process, let's say for short stories, flash fiction, and poetry, still could be very lengthy, but there's things you could do that'll help with just weeding out what kind of publications you want to go to. So a buddy of mine, he uses Duotrope, which I do not use, but apparently that tells you, like, it gives you a lot more detail on journals, which I probably should get because, like, it'll tell you, like, the time period. It's like, hey, this magazine gets back to you in 3 weeks, and, you know, if they're going to accept your work, it might take 6 months. Like, you'll be in there longer. Like, just different things like that you wouldn't think about. But the way I started, because, as you know, I've submitted throughout the years to high rejection rate, but I only submitted like 4 or 5 times a year. When you're submitting work, let's say you have a short story, 2,000 words. Okay, Spencer? I would say submit that one story to at least 8 to 10 different publications. Now, depending on how you feel about that story, because whether you like it or not, if you have no publication history, you kind of got to start at the bottom.
Yeah.
You're going to, find some shit mags and what I try to do, which is what worked for me, submit like flash fiction or maybe some like poetry or whatever, like things that are shorter. Those are what you would want to submit to the lower end publications because their acceptance rate's probably higher. And if they get accepted, it's not something that you work super hard on that, you know, is your baby. And then now all of a sudden it's published in Shit Smear Weekly. Yeah. Like, you don't necessarily want that, but you just want something in your bio, you know? I guess I should probably go to the very beginning here of publications. So when you do a submission, one, sign up for Submittable because most publications worth their salt go through Submittable. And when you do that, it's a very easy process. It's free and it keeps track of the places you submitted to that use Submittable. And then most of those, and this goes with most publications, because you'll have a good smattering of Submittable ones and then just email ones, places that you just email.
Yeah.
You always have to go by the guidelines. So when you submit to these places, what you want to do first off is look at how their cover letter setup is. Like, do they want a cover letter? If they do, what do they want in it? Some places don't want any information. Actually, the one place I got accepted to this year, they just wanted my bio. That was it. They didn't want a cover letter. Now, some places they want a little more detailed cover letter, but the basic cover letter that I use is, you know, I just say, hello, I am submitting such and such story. It's this many words. Depending on the magazine, I might give a brief synopsis of the story, but that's not always mandatory. And then I give my bio. What's worked for me is if you have a little bit of a personal touch, even if you're lying, just say you like their magazine.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you know, I really like the stuff you're publishing. I think my piece would be a good fit. That's a good move. And
grease them wheels.
Yeah, when you get the personal touch, I've been getting more personal responses with that. And if you really want to actually do it right, read some of the stuff they publish.
Yes, so you have an idea on what they are putting out, so you know if you have something already, or if you go to make something new, you have a better idea, and more likely you have a chance that you might get accepted.
Yeah, because like a lot of places will have themes, but even if they don't have themes, if say you're submitting a flash fiction piece, read the latest flash fiction pieces, like 4 or 5 of them because they're short. And just kind of judge, like, you know, I'm writing a comedy. This place only takes serious work. Not going to be a good fit. Sometimes, if the writing's good enough, they'll take a piece, but usually they want something similar to whatever style they go for. Poetry is a little bit harder because it's more abstract. Sometimes they just go for form over the actual poetry, like what's in the poem. Sometimes they want, like, they have more female readers, they might want a slant to the poetry that's, you know, near that. Sometimes they want something geared toward a more masculine style. Sometimes it's, you know, poetry's just all over the place. I can't really give you too much advice on that. I find my acceptance was because I did something that was my poems were relatable and they were more worldwide accepted. Like, they had more bearing than just something super personal. But most of the poetry I see is super personal. So again, that's just up to you. Read what the journal that you're submitting to wants or what they accept, and you might have a lot of them actually say, in their guidelines, they'll give you a list of stuff that they published before. But hey, read some of these to see if you're a good fit. I never read those.
Yeah.
But it's a good move. I usually don't submit to a lot of those anyway, though. Now, the most important thing besides the cover letter is actually following the guidelines. If you don't I would say follow the guidelines to the T.
Oh, definitely.
Don't think, they want Times New Roman. I have it Arial font. It's almost the same. It doesn't. No, follow it to the T. Whatever and it's a pain in the ass because there's like a story I've submitted to 5 different places at once. And also, some places don't want simultaneous submissions. If you're willing to burn the bridge like I have been, I'll submit to them anyway and just not tell them.
Yeah, I mean...
Because I'm like, if somebody accepts me and I have to pull out of this one I wasn't planning on submitting to again. But if it's someplace you really want to, like I want to get into the New England Review real bad, I'm not going to burn any bridges there.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do, hey, I got this submission to you, and then just take it out because I got accepted somewhere else, because then I'm like, well, now I burnt that bridge. I think they take simultaneous submissions, so that's a bad example, but there's some that don't. Like the 10-penny review, they pay a lot of money, and they get back to you within a week, and they have their own submission manager, which is a whole different story, like when you go into those, but when you submit to them, they strictly say do not submit anywhere else. I submitted elsewhere,
yeah,
but that's because it said they got back within the week, and the other places I submitted to didn't get back until like 6 months. So I was like, it doesn't hurt, because if at worst I would get rejected by them and they're still in the other ones. At best, I get accepted by them and just pull out of the other ones.
Yep.
Which they accept, simultaneous submissions. But follow the guidelines,
because because they get so many, they just look for a reason just to cut you.
Oh yeah.
So don't give them a reason before they even get to your story to reject you.
Exactly. And like I was saying, though, I've had a story like 5 different magazines, and each one wanted a different thing. Some wanted in the document name, address, phone number, word count. Some didn't want any identifying information in the document. Most of them want double space, but not all of them. Most of them want Times New Roman font 12. Not all of them. So and some actually have a guideline book they want you to read. Those are usually the genre ones. The horror ones I've submitted to, they have their own guidebooks, like style guides that you have to read. It just shows you the page layout and what you need on it. And I'm just like, God damn, is this necessary? Some places, this is becoming more popular, which I really like. They do blind readings. They don't want any information. And in the guide or even in the cover letter, they don't really want any information. I like that.
Yeah, well, that's just good, because then you feel like if you do get
accepted,
a fair shot, like if you get accepted, it's because
your work
of the quality, and not, as we mentioned in previous issues, like sometimes it seems like they're trying to hit like a quota or have a certain
demographic.
Demographic, yeah.
Yeah, so that's always good. And with the guidelines too, another one you have to watch out for, because the submittable guidelines are pretty easy because they already have most of it. Like some go in a little more detail, but usually it's title. If it's a poem and you have like multiple poems, just multiple titles. Your cover letter with a bio. Sometimes they ask for social media info or websites. Usually just social media, and that's about it. And then they have the separate guidelines for the actual document. But you have some on submittable which are a little deeper, but again, it's already predestined that you just fill out the boxes. It's idiot proof. And most of those ones you do have to pay a fee, like $3 or something. When you get where it gets a little hairy is the guidelines for the email ones. Some are more lax, and they just like how DPW was. Hey, follow our guidelines. Don't be a dick, but like mainly just with the document, and then just send us the email. Some, though, they want specific subject email header. So it's like poetry - Caleb James - title of poem. Or if it's a short story, maybe the word count. Then they want the cover letter. And what I don't like, but some of these do, they want you to paste the story or the poem in the email instead of because they don't want to open up a document. I hate that. It's a pain in the ass, and it's just like you have to figure out how to like get that right. Who wants to read a story in an email?
Yeah.
But some do that, and I've actually come across a few better magazines that do that, so I'll go with it. Now, here's an important part of the submitting process that I never used to do, but I started this year. I just use Google Sheets because it's free. You don't have to have Excel, but it's the same thing as Microsoft Excel. I log all the stuff I'm submitting to. So I have my whole list of all the journals I'm submitting to, the story for said journals. So what way I do it, let's say New England Review. I'll have the New England Review. Then I'll have the story that goes with that I submitted to. Then I will have whether it was free or if it costs something. So say it's $3, I'll put $3. And then what I started doing recently, which I should have did from the get-go, was whether it's an email submission or a submittable submission, because the email ones are harder to follow up on.
Yeah.
The submittable ones are always in a list you can see when they're in progress. The email ones I forget about. Sometimes I get a rejection from an email one. I was like, I don't remember submitting to them. Then I'll look at my sheets. I was like, oh, I did submit to them. I didn't realize it was an email one. Another thing that I haven't done, which I'm going to actually, when I start fresh next year, I'll do, is also in that sheets, I'll put the date first. I think that's probably a good idea. Again, it's just because submittable, you can, it already has the dates, but the email submissions, that's different. But I found out on submittable, you could actually, whatever, like say you submitted to a magazine that's not doesn't use submittable, it's an email one, you can still import it into submittable.
Oh, okay. That's
so it'll tell you. So if you want to keep track of that, you can just use submittable for it all. You don't have to have the sheets. I just like having the extra thing. It's just easier for me. And I can look at it on my phone a little quicker.
Yeah.
There's an app.
And also it seems like that's is an easier way to check, to be like, I sent this story to this magazine or whatever, other than like, because like I have like the submittable too, and it just seems like it's just as you submitted it, like you can create it to like how you want, like oh, these are all the stories I did to the New England Review, these are all the stories I did to whatever, the carp stuff or what, your fish magazine,
and also it'll tell you keep track of like the dates and how many times you submitted a single story. In the sheets I do that's why I have it. So because usually I'll submit, like if I finish a flash fiction story, I might submit to 5 places right then and there. And then I'll put that in the sheets. And if I get rejected, I might submit it somewhere else. But I usually like at least 4 places at once for a story or a poem or something to be up in the air, that way, because they take a while. So, as long as you have those out there, you have a better chance of getting accepted. It's just the number game. Some people I know, they have submissions out for, like, I've submitted this poem 15 times. Like, I got it up at 15 different places. I think that's just a little extreme, just because, like, if you get accepted, now you have 14 other places you gotta, withdraw from, which is another process, is be very formal with your withdrawal. Like, when I've done that, I'm just like, got accepted elsewhere. In submittable, it's a little easier. If it's an email submission, which I've had to do too, I just was very polite. It's like, hey, I got accepted somewhere else, but I would like to submit again in the future if that's okay. It'd be nice like that. Another part of the submission game, besides playing the numbers, and I'm talking about like expect for, let's say you submit 100 times in a year, you're going to get rejected. You could get rejected 90, 95 times.
You might get rejected 100 times.
Might get it's just hard. Like, and this goes to my next point, the time period in which you submit. Now, I always submit to certain contests around the year, like, because they're usually about $20 to submit those. So, but I'll do a couple a year at least. That way, if I have a story I feel good about, I'm like, that's going to be a submission for a contest, and I won't submit that anywhere else until I get, hear back from the contest. But when it comes to the time period, like, there's certain parts of the year that are like clear out times. I think like I submitted a bunch in October and November and got a lot of rejections. I found out a lot of magazines that time of year, they clear out all their old slush pile and start new. Whereas like in February and stuff, a lot of places are either not accepting submissions, or even if they are, they're not reading them for a while. So you have to try to catch them at their best time. And I think Duotrope might help with that. It'll tell you when places like you have the best chance of getting accepted. Because if you want to be like one of the first ones to submit during a new open period.
Yeah, because I'm sure it's a lot of first come, first serve,
Yeah, so where your instinct might be just to find a list of journals and submit to, all of them if you can. What I started to do, which seems to be a little better, is to find journals that you're interested in and pursue them more. So even if they reject one of your stories or poems, like, all right, I'll submit something else. It helps if they give you a personal rejection, then definitely submit again. If you get the generic one, you can submit again, but your chances are they probably don't like your work. It could just be the story. I mean, and if it's a higher end magazine, they just have too many. They can't give personal responses. But if you get a personal response, definitely submit to that one again. So what you want to do is always keep an eye out on that. Again, be personable with these people. And don't take it personal if you do get rejected, because a lot of times they just have too many submissions.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Like they might not even read the first paragraph.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's another thing, that they might not even have read it before they didn't even accept it. They might have already hit what they were able to, the quota, whatever they have to get. Like, you know, they only have room for 15 stories. They might have got to that
500 submissions. Yeah, what do you do?
So they could have got it before they even got a chance to read your stuff. So
that's always a possibility. I mean, at DPW, we did that where, I mean, I tried to extend it at least until November. I'm like, hey, we'll publish, but I always had a cutoff. Submissions closed, and I'm like, hey, this was like a good submission, but every day is filled.
Yeah.
And we're not very strict. Like, if you're doing a print publication, like you said, they're only publishing 15 stories, you're number 500 on the list. Like, are they going to even get to you? But like, chances are, if they're getting quality writers, I would say 80% probably aren't going to be up to par. But even that 20%, like, you're getting enough quality writers that by the time they get to your work that you submitted on the last day of open calls, they're not getting to you. What I recommend, though, which I've had some success here, if you could do expedited, some of these places, they'll be like, hey, if you pay $5, we'll get back to you within a week. Some of them, like Driftwood, if you pay $15, you get an issue of, like, a back issue of the journal, and we'll get back to you within a week. So I opted to do that because, one, at least you're getting the journal. And if it's one you're pursuing, you get more familiar with the work. But two, they get back to you quicker.
Yeah.
There are a list of journals, usually poetry ones, that get back within a day to a week. Those ones are a little tough because I'm always like, are they actually reading it? But some people I know have been published in those. They get, they seem to be going through them. But poems are a little quick. You can read them quicker. Like the one journal Coalition Works, I'm pretty sure he got back to me within a week.
Yeah.
So that's always good. If you can get, when you're starting out, find a new journal. Like Coalition Works was a new journal. You have a better chance of getting published because they're just trying to get their foot off the ground. Their feet off the ground. So you have a better chance of getting in those. You have to be very specific with your choices.
I just would always feel bad. It's like, like we were saying with the Driftwood, at least you're getting like a back issue of the thing. But like, even like it was like $5, like, hey, $5 to get to your student, but I was still gonna cut you. Like,
well, I probably spent a couple $100 this year on submissions, and I don't think I've gotten accepted by any of the pay submissions. No, I did the fish one.
No,
I did the expedited, which was like a $4 thing, and they got back to me within a couple days, and I got accepted. But I have a buddy who did that, and I think he did it twice, and he got rejected. So it's not a short thing. Just because you give them money doesn't mean they're going to accept your work. That's one thing. And the main thing, like I said, though, don't take it personal. You're just going to get, even if you're the best writer, you're going to get a shitload of rejections just because, one, you probably got some fucking intern who's just gone through 5,000 stories in a slush pile that they're forced to read. They're not getting paid to read them, and they're really bored, and they're just skimming through your story, and they don't give a shit. Like, there's a good chance that happens. It's not like, oh, I'm going to fucking submit this story, and it's going to Max Perkins, superior editor, who's just going to... No. You're going to get fucking little Billy Cumstain, who just wants to get some credit for school, and he doesn't give a shit about these awful stories he keeps getting. If you have a 20-year-old, 18-year-old, whatever, in a, interning, what's their real opinion on quality work? Like, what do they think is quality work? That's another thing that kind of burns me, too. It's like, I'm not writing the stories that are trending, like the diversity stuff and the lesbian stories and just like a lot of stuff I read in these magazines. So even if the writing's up to snuff, if that's the person reading it is somebody like in college, like a college age person, there's a chance they're probably not going to, because a lot of like the magazines are run by like liberal arts kids.
Yeah.
So they're probably not going to like what I'm like.
If you're not writing to the demographic.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. If I'm not writing to a specific audience or a specific style story, they probably won't give it a chance. And that's not a slight against them. It might not be fair, but it seems that when you have an older person reading who's had more life experience, they might take these more worldly stories.
Well, I'm going to say, that, and there's the other end of the coin where like you might be stripping to these more established places that have the older people, but then if you want to try to do like a young, like, you know what I mean, they might just
Still go for like a trending.
they might go against that thing because that's not what they're looking for. It goes back into like what you were saying earlier. You have to do you have to do the legwork to see what kind of stuff they're putting out, who they like to put, like,
Well,
to make
again,
sure you're not wasting your time.
Read the stories and the poems. And also, if you're submitting to like a university-based magazine like the Warrior Review or the Black Warrior Review, chances are they not only, but they mainly accept a certain kind of work. I've submitted to the Sun in California a couple times, got a very prompt rejection from those every time. And when you read a lot of the stuff they publish, it's basically they don't want the voice of straight white males. That's just not their demographic. They don't really care to cater to those. Probably not. To be fair, straight white males are probably not reading their publication anyway.
Yeah.
They're probably more towards like people of color and liberals and stuff like that. Which is always funny because me and you are both left-leaning people, but it's like we don't, now at our age group and stuff in our 30s, we don't fit in with the left really anymore, and we definitely don't fit in with the right.
No.
So it's like, where the fuck are we?
And the fact that, like,
we're more like classic liberals, I guess.
And, like, the fact of the matter, like, that shouldn't fucking matter. Like, unless if those kind of things are involved in the story or poem that you're submitting.
Yeah.
It shouldn't fucking matter.
Another good thing about, you're right though, it shouldn't matter. But another good thing about Submittable too, which I always forget, they have a Discover page which will show you places that are accepting work currently.
That's cool.
And one thing, which I've only done once so far, but I really ought people to do, is explore international magazines. So if you can get into an international journal, one that just makes you look better, two, they almost always seem to pay, at least the ones I've seen. They have stricter stipulations, but they do, most of them seem to take work from people from the U.S. or whatever country you might be from. So that's something to look into. And the honest answer here for the whole submission process is you have to keep submitting.
Yeah.
When people say writing is not a poor man's game, they are correct, because if you actually want to submit to like good places, you have to pay, which sucks. Or like anyone can submit to the New Yorker, but chances are you're just not going to hear back. They just ghost you. Now, the New Yorker does have poetry submissions on Submittable, which I thought was interesting because their stories are not. I submitted something to them in October. Knew I wasn't going to get any answer probably, but
for you shot in the dark.
Yeah, it's already March, not even in progress, or like it's probably, they're just never going to get to it, I don't think. But they probably get so many. If you want to get into the New Yorker or the Atlantic, be famous.
That's what you're gonna have to do.
Yeah, that's the main thing.
Well, and like we've talked about this before, like with the whenever forever ago, whenever we read Stephen King's On Writing, he has a section where he talked about like where at his table where he wrote his stories, he had like this hook that was just filled of rejection letters. And if one of the greatest storytellers of our time has just like he got to the point where he was about to quit.
Yeah.
He wasn't gonna bother with it. He was just gonna be a teacher, They were saying it's gonna take the work, it's gonna take luck. There's a lot of that, you don't want to hear about like you got to be lucky too.
Can I hit you with the hard truth bomb?
Okay.
The submissions I've been talking about thus far, 99% of them are literary submissions.
Yeah.
The genre market is the hard market to get into right now. So for most of our listeners who are probably writing fantasy, horror, sci-fi, romance, crime noir, good fucking luck, because the journals I've seen, and the ones I've submitted horror stories to and stuff, they do get back to you. Most of them are paying markets, which is good. And I'm sure there are a lot of lower end ones you can get into, usually online only. But like the good print ones or ones that you want to get into, they're so backlogged with submissions because everybody is a horror writer at some point. Everybody tries their hand at sci-fi. It's very difficult to get in those. The benefit of getting in those, though, I think, like say if you get in, well, you're not going to get into like Cemetery Dance or anything right off the bat, but say you get into a horror magazine, a lot of times I think you can get into the, what is that? It's like Stephen King and stuff are in the Horror Writers Association or something like that, and the sci-fi has one too. Then you could be up for awards and stuff, but you could get into those things. It's like a union or something. You can become a member of those if you get published, I think, in any horror publication. I think that's how it works. Now, there are, like, we go to conventions, I always see, like, indie horror publishers. You can get into indie horror publishers. They might even pay, like, $10 or something.
I was going to say, like, and, like, that's also, like, the other side of the coin is, like, with the, or like, the argument is, like, submit to places, things like that, or just try to self-publish.
Honestly, at this point, self-publishing is probably not just the quicker option, but it might be the better option if you have an online following.
Yeah.
It's more work, but here's
it's more work, but more reward if you make anything out of it.
Well, here's the issue that people don't know. So when Drunken Pen Writing, the website was up and we published work periodically, we would get a good amount of visitors here and there. We were by no means booming in business.
No.
I think that's fair to say. I looked at our viewership numbers before we shut down, and I compared them. There was a list online of the top publications in the country. So you're not just like the New Yorker and the Paris Review, because obviously they're like top tier.
Oh, yeah.
But, like really high ones, like really, really good journals. And we were like, if we were in that, on that list, we were in the middle.
Oh.
We were actually, our views for monthly views, most of them are your shitty articles.
Well, whatever,
But just our monthly views and visitors on the site were around the mid-range. So even if you get published in a good journal, that doesn't mean more than 100 people are going to read it.
Right.
Over the last year, I bought myself quite a few, like Paris Review, New England Review, Driftwood, just a bunch of different journals to, see what's out there. And plus the ones I've had before. I've only read maybe a few stories in each and a handful of poems in each because I just don't have the time to read all that stuff. And what are the odds that somebody goes to the magazine section of Barnes & Noble specifically for a literary journal?
Yeah.
They usually, the ones I've been to, at least in the Pennsylvania, only have maybe 3 or 4. When I was in like Colorado, California, and Maine, I've been to some, even at the airport, some Barnes & Nobles and different bookstores that have a pretty big selection of literature. So some states do have more. But your general reading audience is already low enough. So if you think getting published in, a major journal or a horror magazine or whatever it is going to boost you to the top, no. Mainly what you're using it for is to say, hey, I've been published in this. I'm quality enough. So when you go to sell your book or get an agent, you can be like, hey, I've been published in the New England Review. I got published in the New Yorker. They're like, okay, this guy's worth something. We can kind of skip the whole... is he going to be able to sell that whole thing?
It's kind of like you need credits to advance, but you can't advance without credits.
It's hard.
And it's just like you kind of have to start out somewhere just to, like you said, to kind of prove yourself, to prop you up a little bit, to show like, hey, I can do this. I'm reliable. I can get it done on time. I can follow, the orders or the guidelines or whatever it may be, to make it, then hopefully you can kind of build up a bit of a clout or a reputation for yourself.
Without knowing somebody in the industry that can help you out or knowing somebody at a publication, your chances of getting published, no matter how good of a writer you are in a really good journal right off the bat, is low. What generally most of us writers have to do if we want to go the route of making it to paid publishing and eventually becoming a well-known writer, you submit to dog shit journal. Again, maybe not best work. I mean, if you're submitting, unless you're just really good and everything's your best work, you start getting some of those acceptances, put those in your bio, and then when those are in your bio, you go up to the next level, and then that level goes through, and then you get some acceptances because, oh, he's been published before, okay. Then you could take some off and, get the new ones in there. And then you just keep doing that until all of a sudden you have top tier journals in your bio. That is not a quick process.
No, that's years.
When some magazines don't get back for 6 months, here's where being a prolific writer comes in handy. When you are able to write a whole bunch of stories and have them all out in submissions, you have a much better chance of not just getting accepted, but things will come at you at all different times of the year.
Let's use a fishing analogy.
Okay.
You throw one hook into the, into the pond or whatever. You might get something, but it's going to take a while. It's going to be long. Yeah. But if you fucking send a whole bunch of fucking hooks out into the pond, you have a better chance of snagging something.
Yes. And you won't have to wait as long because some hooks will go faster.
Now, sometimes it might be an old boot.
Yeah.
That's been in the bottom of the lake.
Sometimes you get the old boot, but you got to take that boot. Maybe it fits. Do you have any questions, Spencer? Because you only dipped your toes into a couple submissions.
Yeah, I haven't submitted too much like yourself, so that's why I've kind of let a lot of the talk. That you lead this episode and throw my 2 cents in every once in a while.
Well, at least you could just you have an opinion on that fucking awful, horrible glimmer of hope that's always in your eye when you have that submission up.
Yeah,
and you're just like, oh, they're gonna accept it. First, it's like, I hope they accept it. And you're like, they're going to accept it. They're going to fucking accept it. And more time goes by. Then it's like, they don't like it. They're not going to accept it. They're not even getting to it.
They're probably telling other publications, if you get stuff from this guy, don't even bother opening it.
Blackball from the whole industry. And then it goes the other way. And you're like, no, it's taking so long because they're deliberating.
Yeah.
They like it. Yeah. They want it. And then usually when you're at your peak, you're like, I think they're going to take it. They get the generic rejection. Mm. That's why I like the fast rejections. I'd rather just send them quick.
Get them out of the way.
Though, as you've seen, when you get a personal rejection, it actually feels good.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, the writing's good. They might not like the story, or in my case, it wasn't a fit, but you're like, oh, they want me to submit again soon. Like when they say personally, I want you to submit again, please. I'd like to read more of your work. It's like, fuck yeah, I did. It's almost like getting accepted. You're like, I did it. Now I just
it's a moral victory.
Yeah, it's like
it's a Rocky moment. You didn't win, but you made it to the end of the.
You didn't win the battle, but you might be able to win the war. Yeah, you win all 15 rounds. There's layers to this submission game, and I know the dirty truth is that some publications, at least, not too many that I've come across, though I do realize, so I have a little anecdote here that's kind of strange.
Okay.
I don't remember if I mentioned it on air before, but if I get to that, some publishers, I think do look at your social media to see how many followers you have.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
As a deciding factor of maybe I should accept this guy or not. Like if you don't have a lot of, things in your bio, like submit, publish here and there. But there's one particular journal I submitted to, and not too long after I submitted to them, they went through and liked a bunch of my tweets, my old tweets. And I'm like, oh, that's a good sign. And that was 3 or 4 months ago. And I still haven't heard. My thing's still in progress. I haven't heard from them. So I'm like, they better fucking accept it. You don't just like my tweets and follow me and then not accept me,
Being creepers.
Yeah, that was a little strange. So I have hope on that one, but I thought I would have been accepted by now. So now I'm not so sure. Yeah. Like, what if they reject me? And then it's like, who the fuck was running the account that liked my stuff? Like, because that's so weird. Like, a fucking literary journal likes bunch of your tweets.
Yeah.
And they were personal tweets. They weren't like just about writing. So I don't know. But hopefully that's a good stuff. But again, it's just like they're creeping on me. It's like I don't like that. It's like you're looking at my social media. So what if you said shitty things on social media? That's another thing a lot of writers don't realize is maybe they get a little saucy on Twitter or something. And, even if it's like they're calling Trump an ass face or DeSantis an ass face or something, that might be a popular thing among the left. And even the journals that read that, whoever's reading your tweets might be like, oh, that's funny. But I'm not getting that bomb. We're not publishing them and then they get canceled.
Yeah.
Like you really do have to, if you want to be a writer, be professional on social media until you make it.
Yeah.
If you want to get canceled after you're famous, go ahead, but don't get canceled before you make it. If you get
don't get pre-canceled.
Yeah, that goes with other things too. You really want to start an OnlyFans to pay the bills. Well, if your OnlyFans gets known and they know it's you, and you're also aspiring writer. Not a lot of publishers might not be comfortable publishing someone who also does porn on the side or sells naked pictures or whatever. They might not care. They might not know, which would be all right. But again, it's like being a teacher. You can be a teacher and have OnlyFans, but if the kids find out you have OnlyFans, we've seen you can get fired. Doesn't seem right, but
I remember hearing a thing a couple months ago. There was some female wrestler who was like one of like the champions. But she had, it wasn't an OnlyFans, but it was like an OnlyFans kind of thing on the side. And they found out and they just shit-canned her.
I mean, you also represent the company or the company that you want to get into. So there's just things to keep in mind, folks. If you want to submit, be professional and don't let too much of your personality bleed through the submission process. Wait till after.
Yeah.
Wait till after you're accepted. That's all I can really, that's all advice I think I could give you. Only advice I got. And I can't talk too much because I haven't had a major publication yet, except my work. I have them out there. I've been waiting. That's what sucks. I haven't updated my website or anything because I've been waiting. I've been sitting on so much stuff. I got at least like 30 things in the air right now still because you get a lot of rejections, but at the same time, there's a lot of places that I think I have solid work out there now. The newest story I wrote and submitted, I only submitted to 4 places, all major print publications that pay. So the acceptance rate is very low, but I really feel strongly about the story, so I hope one of them picks it up. If not, I'll submit it to a lower end one, not like a middle range one, and I'm sure I'll get accepted. But also, though, again, here's hoping that the places are liking the kind of story I'm telling.
Yeah.
Because like I said before, while the writing's there, the writing's good, that doesn't mean they like what I'm writing about, which that's a tough pill to swallow. And then, as we've known some great writers, sometimes you just have to go indie because people, while they might like your work, the fans, and they want your work, publishers, they don't want to take our chance.
Yeah, and
on
then
submitting your or accepting your style of work and publishing it.
And then if you can build up a bit of an audience by yourself, that's more.
Then you can submit, and they'll be like, "Oh,
he has a following."
But then it's like, why the fuck do I need you?
True.
That's the way I look at it. Do I need a publisher? No. Like if I, so say I started publishing shit on my site, it just got real popular, and then I was like, oh, I'm writing a novel. If I have, let's say, 500 people follow me who say we're gonna buy your novel at $15, why would I go through the process of having a publisher put out my novel and give me fucking pittance for all this work I put in when I can sell it myself and make 100% profit?
True.
So
yeah, because it's like, do you make? Like we said before, it's like you do it yourself and make more of the whole gain from that, or do you try to go to a publisher to where they can maybe get it to a wider audience and get more people, but the cut of that is less. But and you're doing the same amount of work, if not more.
But as we talked about before with the marketing and stuff, a lot of publishers, they'll put your work out for a week or something, it ain't selling, and they just shit can it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then you got a fucking book that's not on the market that you are not allowed to put on the market. I would not want to go through that.
Part of the only thing would probably help would be like to actually get it into stores, because I don't know how like Barnes and Nobles are with taking like indie people or self-published like, you know.
They don't, and that's what people were saying, that like they're missing the boat. But put it this way, even if you get published by Penguin and they just put it in the store, they don't do any marketing for you. They just put it in the store. You're a middling novelist, whatever. How often do you, Spencer Church, walk through a Barnes & Noble or any bookstore and just pick out a random book and like, I'm going to give this a chance?
Right.
Author you don't know.
Yeah.
I would say less than 1% of readers will go into a bookstore and just grab a book that they don't know, that they never heard of, and they haven't researched. That is a tough one. So I don't know. The whole social media aspect of building up your brand is horrible. I don't want to do it. So we can end on that. I just don't want to have to go through that. I know I will, but it's tough. But first, start small. I'm just trying to get submitted or accepted into different publications, and then hopefully building myself up the traditional way will lead me to be able to get my book published quicker. Then people will enjoy the work, hopefully. And if I gotta do book signings and all that shit, I'll do the marketing if I have to. But I don't know. The worst comes to worst, I'll do indie publishing and sell it to you.
Is it? I always had the fear of like to be down there, but like the traditional of like, hey, you get the book out yourself, or even if you was able to like a decent sized like indie like publisher, and they set up like like a book sign at a local Barnes and Noble or whatever, and you're just sitting there
by yourself.
Yeah, there's nobody there.
What even happens, I saw a trending thing where some lady that happened to her, and like one person showed up, and then like Neil Gaiman, Steve, like all the big authors came and was like, hey, we did signings and that's happened to us. Even recently it's happened to us. So I don't have to feel too bad, but it would suck. Also, just because we were talking about indie authors, I don't know if you saw, but Dan Notes, who was on our podcast a couple weeks ago, he not only hit his Kickstarter goals, he hit all the stretch goals.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
good.
like I think he got 6, 7, 8,000. I don't know. He like big time money.
We're taking credit for that, right?
Oh yeah, it was definitely the DPW effect.
All right, yeah. They get the DPW bump.
Yep, that's what it was. So congratulations to him, and that's his highest Kickstarter to the date. So that's
good.
Cool.
Good.
So anyway, folks, if you like the kind of stuff we do and you want to buy our work, we don't have work to sell right now, but you could check us out at DPW Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Spencer's OnlyFans. What are you? You're not Turkish. The Tanzanian Toe Tickler Church.
Yep.
So, are you only tickling the toes of Tanzanians, or are you saying you're Tanzanian?
Well, I'm not Tanzanian.
Well, I don't know. I always assumed you're just appropriating the culture of whatever
No,
nationality
I'm
or
not,
city.
I'm not that rude.
Oh, okay. And also, you could check out my work and my publication history at calebjamesk.com. I promise I will put up more work here soon. Just, once I get some
Answers.
fucking feedback. Because some of the stories are older stories that I'll just put on my site if they do, if I get a batch of rejections from them, I'm just like, all right, I'm done. Because I'm not invested in those. It's old DPW stuff anyway. So I'm like, I'll just, technically not even supposed to submit those. But, since the site's down, they don't know. They don't know. So it's like, I don't give a shit. I'll put on the site. Now, my new stuff, that's a different story. But anyway, we thank you for listening, and we will check you out next time.